And I'm so thankful for my cohort that I had, because I really don't even know if I would have graduated without some of my friends who like took their, like, they checked up on me and they made sure that I was fine. I do remember there was one incident that I've not always been the most of, where I guess where most people don't or have an issue with the things that I post. I do kind of overshare a little bit. I will admit that I have in the past, but there's a reason behind that, because for me, I had a fear for a very long time of, I'm going to be alone somewhere and something's going to happen to me and nobody's going to know. And I remember I had one particular night, that I was having a very rough night. Just, again, my thoughts, and that people don't understand of living with a mental illness. Sometimes it's things that you don't have control over. And if you don't have those coping skills to deal with them, that person is like your rational thinking of, well, you should do this. That person doesn't have that, because first of all, they have no control over what's going on with their mind. Where if your mind is racing and thoughts are overcrowding you, and you don't have that foundation and those supports to kind of help you learn how to navigate that, that person can't function like that. And that was the spaces that I was in, of once those thoughts came, they consumed me and I was not able to really function. And so whatever came out, came out. And I remember I had made a status on Facebook, and like, it was probably, I think it had to be very, like, to the point where people really thought that, like, one of my cohorts, she really thought, like, okay, because she kind of picked up on the fact, okay, like, something's not right. But I do remember, like, that night in particular, like, I made the status and I ended up going to sleep. And because in my mind, it kind of come to, you just need to go to bed, just lay down, go to sleep, and you'll stop thinking. But I remember waking up that morning to a knock at my door, and it was a police officer, because one of my cohorts had called the police on me, and they were coming to do a well check to make sure that I was fine and live. Because again, I went to bed, so they were all calling me. She had called me. My mom was calling me, and everybody was trying to figure out where's Alonzo, not knowing that I was asleep and I was fine. But I woke up to the cops being called on me, and I had, and I had to let them know that I was fine and I was sleeping, things like that. And then I had to follow up with, the counseling center, things like that. And it was that was like the first time that I felt like, okay, well, I have somebody in my corner, that to somebody will go to that extent to first not to judge and say, oh no, he's negative, or he's just being negative, or that's just being Alonzo, or, like, just he's wanting attention. No, that was somebody that was recognizing and knowing who I was, and knowing something's not right. Let me go and check up and make sure that this person is okay. Because you would have never known. I could have been somewhere hurt. I don't want to say dead, but dead. You never know, because you never know what the internal struggles that a person is dealing with, and to the extent of where they are in their mental illness, you never know. So if when you count that person out as, oh, they're just being negative, they're just being a victim, or they're just being trying to get attention, and it's like, no, somebody, that might be the perfect time that you actually might need to check on your friend, and or to check on that person, just to make sure that everything is okay. um and so I was very thankful for her for just doing that. And like I said, my cohort, they were very, very supportive, because again, it was one of those things of, when I went to class, you put that mask on, you put that smile on, you put the everything is fine, and knowing clearly the way I looked physically, and just, people picked up on, like, okay, you lying, like, come on, like, you're distant, you don't really interact with people, like, they picked up on the fact, okay, well, let me come over here and let's engage with you. And and those things, doing things like that, that's what helped me get through grad school. I had a wonderful faculty who always pushed me to continue, because that second year, oh, a Nicolette was over it. Okay, I was checked completely out, because it was just everything. When I say everything was falling to pieces, it was falling to pieces. I was like, tired all the time from having to work and doing an internship, being at an internship all day, going to work during the night, having to wake up and do it all over again. There were days going without food, like again, not having a real comfort or support system that like was there. And it was just like, I'm losing my shit yet again, and y'all really want me to be here and doing assignments. I don't want to graduate. I don't need this damn degree. Like, I don't want it. But they found ways to kind of help me to be able to deal enough to where I was able to graduate. And so I graduated. Thankfully. Thank the Lord. And then after graduation, it wasn't that, things were still not going so well. And a lot of times the people, they try to use material things as a means to happiness. Everybody doesn't look for their happiness in material things or the things like, oh, you have a degree, well, you should be happy. No, because I'm still a person who has never really had things or has never been wooed or sold on, I need these material things to make me happy. Again, getting a master's degree was never a goal of mine. So when people would come at me and be like, "Oh, well, you should be happy. You have a master's degree." Y'all don't understand. Imagine didn't really want it. Like I was struggling and still in a state of I'm dealing with a whole lot of other unresolved issues that I have at that point now have been dealing with for over 10 years. And so this little raggedy sheet of paper was not that was not a crowning moment. That was not my happily ever after because one, I at the time I was still not hadn't found a job in my field. So then that kind of kicked in and I didn't find a job in my field until I graduated in May and I didn't get a job in my field until October of that year. And I don't do the math, so I'm a social worker. I don't do math. So May, June, July, August, September, October. So 5 months after I graduated, 5 to 6 months after I graduated was when I got my first job in my field. So in that time, while you have people saying, "Oh, you should be grateful, like you should be happy you have a master's degree." Yeah, I have a master's degree, but I'm not working in my field. Meanwhile, all of my cohort and people that I went to school with, they have jobs in their field. So here I am stressing and upset and thinking in my mind because with the my illness, it's easier for me to be my own critic and kind of jump on my own self of you have this degree but you still have no job. So and then it goes and then you just deal with those thoughts of okay, well, was it worth it and things like that. So in that time when people are coming at you like, oh, well, you should be happy, and I'm just like, well, I'm not benefiting from it, and that's adding stress onto me. And I don't have a job, and I remember I had a job, I was working in daycare, and then I was let go from the daycare, and then I was supposed to have another job, and then once I started that job, I remember I went to the job. They had offered me the job and everything, and I had started. The first day I got there, they pretty much rescinded the job because somebody read my qualifications wrong and said that I wasn't qualified for the job that they had offered me. And then they tried to offer me a lesser job. And so it was like, okay, well, now I don't have a job, and then y'all just gave me this one, and then you rescinded, so I didn't take it. So then I'm left in the state of, okay, well, now I really don't have a job at all. I have bills to pay and all this other stuff. And that led to hospitalization number two. And I still remember that like it was yesterday. Like it was one of those things of I've grown over the years of knowing when you need to get some help, you need to get some help. So that was something that I've always that's been a strength of mine, you can say, that when I know when it's to a point to where I can't do this on myself on my own, I have to reach out. And I remember it was one day in particular I was walking I would normally, because I normally would walk to kind of try to de-stress or clear my mind. And I remember I was walking that day and I just could not get it together. I remember walking down the sidewalk and just crying. Just, I was bawling because, again, I was losing it in my mind. And I remember I walked across the parking lot like I was walking, and I'm just crying. Like, I don't even care if somebody sees me at this point. And in my mind, I had already made up, okay, well, I have to go to the hospital. And I remember I called my grandmother and I was just like, I'm about to go and check into the hospital because I need to talk to somebody and things like that. So I was like, and I wanted somebody to know that this is what's going on because I can't function right now. And I remember going back to my apartment, and I lived with I had two roommates at the time, and I remember my whole thing was I'm trying to get in the house to go pack a bag and get out this house before anybody sees me because I didn't want anybody to see me because I knew I was going to lose it even more. And I remember I got in the apartment, and I didn't think anybody was there, so I had went and got my little bag, whatever. And so as I'm coming out, my sister calls me, and like she's asking me like, am I okay? And of course I'm lying because that's just normally what I learned to do over the year. When people ask me if I'm fine, you get, or am I okay, you do the whole I'm fine and whatever. And so my roommate was there and he heard me, and so then he comes out and he's like, are you okay? And I'm like, no, I'm not okay. Like, I gotta go. And I remember I just like ran out, and I was just like, cause I didn't want to talk, cause I was just like, I know like this is gonna send me over. And I just remember like I was just like, no, I'm not okay, and I gotta go. And I remember I left and I drove myself to the hospital, and again, it was one of those things. I got there and I was kind of like, I don't really want to be here. Kind of tried to change my mind at the end, but they ended up checking me in, and I remember I had to stay, and I stayed for the weekend, and kind of took those days to kind of gather my thoughts, and was linked to um, therapy services afterwards to kind of get assessed and kind of get reevaluated. And so at this point, my diagnosis changed from just being just a regular old depressive to major depressive, a major depressive disorder, um, with severe tendencies, and with the added of a general anxiety disorder with panic attacks. And so again, I had did the medication. I had tried medication again during grad school, and it was just I wasn't here for it. Like just me taking medicine, I was just like, I'm not here for this. And so I kind of stopped. And then once I graduated, I didn't have the services of being able to go to counseling anymore for free. And so being able, I was linked to community resources to get like an assessment and things done like that. And just never follow through with them. I'm so inconsistent. But, um, but that's part of it. Um, People are quick to judge folks, and when you don't have a full understanding of it, like I always tell people, I'm a person that I do feel for me it is a, I don't want to say it's a long term kind of deal that I have to deal with, but it is it's something that it's when you've added years and you've gone through years of pain and trauma and things like that, it takes a long time to deal with those traumas. And for me, there's a lot of things that it's taken me a while. It's things that from my younger years that it's like I'm just recently learning to cope with and deal with. And then I haven't even gotten to like previous or like more recent things that have happened, um, that have either like kind of re traumatized or things like that. Um, and that people don't understand. Like for me in particular, like I said, I live with having depression and having anxiety and panic attacks and things like that. And so there's days where I'm good. Like there's days where I can function and I can be really well. And then there's days where I have episodes that can last for days, can last for weeks, where I can't function very well, and it's just like it's hard, and again, it goes back to having a support system where people aren't judging you and people are being patient with you and not labeling you or making accusations about you and not understanding the full story or everything that goes along with it. That's what helps people living with mental illnesses. That's what helps them to get better. You have to have the support, and it's not something that they can do on their own. There's nothing, and I hate the whole adage of you have to do everything by yourself, because nobody gets through in life by yourself. You have people that are in your corner that help support you and guide you and comfort you to help you when you're going through times. And so that's the part that kind of really irritates me with people when it comes to dealing with folks with mental illness. They need support. They need consistent support. They need genuine support from people that are going to take the time to understand the differences between that person and their mental illness. And thankfully, I have friends who I've known for a while who, they're used to it. They've seen it. They've been there when things were not that great, and I can appreciate them for being there, because sometimes I needing people to just listen to me. And when I say listen to me, actually listen to what I'm saying and not listening to respond to what I'm saying. There's a difference. A lot of people will listen to respond versus just actually listening to this person so that you can maybe get a better understanding of what's really going on with this person and what that person really needs at that moment in time. When I'm going, for me in particular, when I'm having a depressive episode, I don't need someone who's going to come in with judgments and or accusations or interpretations that are wrong. That's not what I need, because for me, in my depressive episodes, my irritation level is very low and my tolerance level is very low. And so most of the time, I'm going to be very combative with you, because at that moment in time, that's not what I need and that's not what I'm looking for. And then most of the time, you're actually doing exactly what I'm telling you is my issue. And that's what makes it hard, because you want to utilize people, but then when people don't really understand, that makes it hard, because then it's like, okay, well, I'm trying to use coping skills, I'm trying to do this and I'm trying to do that, but I'm not getting what I need to get from people. And so then that makes it harder. And then it's like learning when you have to take the time to get the extra help. And so, like I said, I'm always very good at knowing when I need to seek the professionals. Um, and so, in my introduction video that I made for the website, I had said the idea for the blog came from a recent episode that I had that pushed me to the point to where it was like, yeah, Alonzo, it's time for you to seek the professional help, and kind of to, like, I had to come to, this is part of owning my truths and living in my truths, of understanding that medication is probably in my future, and that it's probably something that I definitely need, because, like I said, this has been a decade long struggle that I've dealt with, and just knowing that for me in particularly, that's probably something that I'm going to need, and there's nothing wrong with that. And so I had to take the necessary steps to explore that direction, and kind of, seeking the actual professional help that I need. Because for me, it's very ironic, and a lot of people will tell you, when you're in a helping profession, it is a whole lot easier for you to help other people. But when it comes to yourself, it's like, I really don't know how, I don't know how to explain it or like understand like how that is and why that is. But it's it's one of those, like, it's very easier for us to tell other people this is what you need to do, because I tell people all the time, it's nothing wrong with seeking the help. And like I said, I'm an advocate for it, but it's like, when it comes to me doing it for myself, I always struggle very much. So, but at the end of the day, like I said, I'm still, like, I'm a person who lives with it, And there's days where I'm doing well, and then there's times where I struggle and I have hard days and I have bad days and things like that. But at the end of the day, I keep pushing and I keep, kind of keep going, and I try to find things that give me a reason to kind of keep going. And a lot of that comes from I have friends who are there, who don't mind. I have friends that if they see something, if I say something, if I do something, they call me out. They come real quick running, and it's, are you okay? Like, I saw this. Is that what you meant? Like, and so, and for me, that helps me. That's something, because it's not something that I've always had. And so now I've created those bonds with people, and it's like they understand that, okay, let me look first. I'm fine with people asking me, am I fine? And I'm fine with people giving insight or wanting to give advice or things, but my whole thing is be informed when you're trying to give advice, because and understand that what works for you might not always work for this other person, because we have two different lived experiences. And so if you can't understand my experiences, some of the things you might suggest, you don't know if that's really going to work, because you don't understand those feelings. You don't understand that trauma and things like that. Like, I always tell people, I can't tell a woman how, like, a woman who's going through postpartum, I can't tell you necessarily how to feel about that, because that's not something I have to experience. And it's not fair for me, and it's not right for me to tell you this is what you should do in this situation, because I don't know that feeling. And even if I did, still understanding we have different experiences. We might have different supports. She might have supports that I might not have, or they might have a different level access to things that I might not have. And you have to be conscious of those things, because then when you go into this whole, well, I'm giving you suggestions and I tell you what I'm supposed to do, and then you don't do it, because that doesn't work for me. Like, I'm not one of those people. Like, that doesn't provide comfort to me. That's not something that I can do or that I have available for myself. So yes, I appreciate you taking the time to want to give suggestions, but make sure you're actually listening to what I'm telling you, to kind of shape whatever it is you're going to tell me. Because if you're telling me something that goes against what I just told you, that's showing me that you're not listening. So then that goes back to the point of, with the feelings that I've had as a young child, of nobody really cares, nobody pays attention. Because if I'm talking to you and I'm telling you things and then you're suggesting things that don't go with that, that's the issue. Um, I can give an example. Um, Recently, well, it's not recently. It's been maybe almost 3 years now, maybe. But I was assaulted, and that in itself brought a whole different perspective of certain things that I do. And people, you don't understand the feelings that come with that. Um, it was a while that I went through a moment where I didn't really grieve it. Nobody knew. And so there was a lot of isolation and a lot of feelings of blaming myself and things like that I had to go through, and like not trusting people, not wanting to be around people, and things like that. And so one of the, I want to say, the side effects, I'll say, for me, that's not really new, but it's more heightened, is that going out in public is difficult for me. Um, I've always had really bad social anxiety. So, like, going to like big places like concerts, or like places where there's going to be a lot of people, my anxiety was already kind of there. But it's like now, after that, it's been really heightened. So when your suggestion is, well, you should go out more, like, and like you have like no regard for the fact of, okay, yeah, I get that, but at the same time, for me, going out, especially going by myself, it is a struggle that I still have to learn to get adjusted to, because even like going to Walmart can be very hard at times, especially when there's a lot of people in there. And I'm a little bit more hyper vigilant about things now. But so like when people are suggesting things like that, and I'm telling you that this is what my experience is, these are what my feelings are about it, this is kind of how it affects me, and then you go ahead and suggest something that is like, damn, did you not just listen to what I just told you? Like, that's not helpful. You're not being a helpful person because you're not listening and you're not being informed in the things that you say. Or if you're talking down to the person, or if you're being condescending to the person as if they don't know their own life stories, and then you get to the point to where you're making them feel like you're trying to invalidate their feelings and trying to make them feel like they're wrong for feeling the way that they feel about the situations that they've been through that you have not experienced and that you don't understand and have no concept over. Um, and so it's just, I think a lot of it is you have to take the time to educate yourself. If you know somebody, if you have a family member or a boyfriend or girlfriend or a spouse or a child who has a diagnosis of something, it's very important for you to take the time to research that, whatever that particular mental illness, learn what the signs are, learn what it looks like when a person is dealing or kind of going through these episodes and things like that, and learn how to best support them when you see those things. Because I think a lot of times people don't think about, it's small things that you don't realize, but that you're just normally doing, and you're not realizing that it can affect that person. Um, and it's very simple, as simple things like if a person grew up and, like for a child, if a child grew up in a home where every time their father yelled at their mother, they knew either she was getting beat or they were about to be beat or abused or whatever, a trigger for them might be anytime somebody raises their voice, they have a fear of, this, I'm going to be beat. If you don't know that, and if you're not in tune with understanding why a person reacts a certain way when you start to raise your voice, then you're not really helping that person. You have to learn, you have to take the time to learn what people's triggers are and like what the person's backstory is, because then you learn how to interact with people, you learn how to help them, you learn how to support them. You maybe and then for coping, maybe that person doesn't like to be given suggestions and being told what they should do when they're in an episode. If you don't know that, then you're going in it in the mindset of, I'm going to help you, and me helping you is by me giving you suggestions, but that's not how that person receives things. You're not helping that person. So I feel like it's very important for people to understand that things happen in life. People, we all respond and react to things very differently based on what our experiences were, how we were raised, what our foundations are as regarding to knowing how to cope and deal with things. And it varies from person to person. We all don't have the same values. We all don't have the same upbringings. We all don't have the same life experiences. But you have to be aware of those things when you're dealing with folks who are living with a mental illness, because that can make all the difference in the world to helping that person be able to either live with their illness or to be able to better manage dealing with these things. Because for some people, they never go away, and they learn to live with these things, and it's always there. But it doesn't mean that that's who they are. They're still people. They still have feelings. They still have hopes. They still have dreams. But they have a part of them that, unfortunately, they have no control over. And it takes, them having to learn and have the support and things in order to help them get through those rough times. So I'm always, I'm an advocate for it. I'm always very transparent, sometimes a little bit too much for some people. And but it goes back to understanding, for me, I do certain things because I've not always had somebody who I can call that comforts me and makes me feel well. And so I do take different routes because if I am in a space where I'm not really feeling good and I don't really want to reach out to somebody because it's not something I'm used to, so I don't do that. And sometimes it does take having somebody else to say, "Hey, are you okay?" or "Are you fine?" That's why I do some of the things that I do. But for people who know that and who have taken the time to understand that, they know that. And they act accordingly and they don't judge, they don't assume things, they don't label me and they don't treat me a certain way because of what I do. They understand it and so they operate in a way to where they can be helpful and they can be supportive to me in the best ways that they can. And for those people, I really appreciate y'all because it helps me a lot. Just learning how to deal with this because sometimes it is a daily thing. It sometimes is an hourly thing. For me, it's just kind of learning to kind of deal and live with it. But it's something that I do, and with the hopes that it gets better. But that's basically kind of what I want to share with this. This was a very long video. So if y'all watched the whole video, I appreciate you all and thank you all for just taking the time to, explore and come to Lolo's Corner. Again, I'm always very here for like those who are dealing with certain things. Please feel free. You can reach out to me. I'm always here. Like I enjoy talking with people and supporting people who live with mental illnesses. I've always had people um, reach out to me when I do post certain things, and I've had people reach out to me and say, "Oh yes, I'm going through the same thing," or they'll reach out and say, "Hey, you can talk to me if you need to," and that's what we need because you don't realize that people are going through, like, we all go through things and you never know who's dealing with certain things. People might be dealing with the same things and they need these supports. They need to see that it's okay to not be okay all the time and that it is okay to reach out. It is okay to ask for help and it is okay to talk about these things in a healthy manner to where you're not feeling judged or feeling ashamed for having the certain feelings that you do have. So again, I will say, please utilize your support, utilize your resources, reach out. If you want to reach out to me, I'm all here for it. Um, so yeah. So, just learn to, take care of yourselves. Make sure that you are taking care of not only your physical health, emotional health, but always paying attention to your mental health because it is very important. And that goes for everybody, no matter how old you are, how young you are, how rich you are, how poor you are, whether you're straight, whether you're gay, whatever. We all have mental health that we have to protect and take care of. So that is the end of this video because I'm starting to ramble and this video is very long. So, but I thank you all again. I thank you and I appreciate you all for just coming to listen to my greatest stories in Lolo's Corner. Until next time, folks.